And welcome back to part 3 of the Toucan painting. Our goal today is to hopefully finish this puppy up. My name is Tammy, and I have a classroom that's called Dream Big, and also my own studio, which is under TMH Art Studio. So yeah, so I have all that. So if you've been following me from the first 2 videos, we are continuing with finishing up this lovely toucan. Hopefully, like I said, my goal is to get this done today, and so we can start a brand new one, which I think what I have lined up is bees, so I can start working back on my endangered species. So right, let's go ahead and get started. So again, I'm just going to be working a little bit here and on the beak, and just kind of all over the place a little bit to slowly start wrapping this lovely bird up. So I do have one small complaint that happened to me. I think it was my part 2 of my toucan I put out there. I'm like, oh yay, I got someone who made a comment on it, and to my surprise, it was not a very nice person for what they left that I deleted immediately. For y'all who want to put vulgar pictures out there and all that, do it on your own time and on your own website. A few of us don't care to see that, and I was quietly offended by it. But thankfully I caught it in time before anybody else opened it, and maybe I shouldn't have opened it because who knows what might have else been attached to it. But I was not happy with it because, you know, you're trying to come out here and you're trying to build a small business or a place for people to come and enjoy themselves while they're painting, and then you get this idiot who puts some vulgar on your video page in your comments. So I didn't appreciate that. I don't know how many else get that on theirs, but it shocked me. I was very surprised. But you know, these days I think people have too much time on their hands, and just, I don't think, you know, they just don't care. Here's my thing. If you have the technology, and if you have just the knowledge basically to do this, get a real job. Work for our government to stop people like you from doing it. I mean, come on, seriously. So that was my gripe for today. I'll get off my soapbox and turn to much happier things like my toucan. It's kind of been a crazy day today, staying busy with my work and just trying to keep things moving forward. Some days are really good. I can stay on top of everything and get everything done, and then there's days where you're like, wow, this day is really not coming together like I want it to. So here I am on my toucan. I'm just working a little bit here and there. I'm not going to stay too focused in one area. I'm going to kind of keep moving around and coming back to it. This gives my paint time to cure a little bit so that I can add more color to it. Again, with me working on a black background, I have to knock out with my transparency in my yellows, I have to really knock out that background. So it's kind of going to be a build process. So normally this would not take as long if this was a white background, but because it's a black background that I'm painting on instead of knocking it out, I just have to work a little bit more than normal. So again, what this just does is it just challenges me to think outside the box. Sorry, I still have allergies. And I also think I had too much caffeine today because I feel very hyper. And again, it's hard not having music in the background. I'm so used to having it where it's not so quiet. But when I did that for one of my others, I had music in the background. So again, it's just like having music back there. YouTube kind of not allow certain countries to have it. So I'm just going to go back in and edit when I'm done here to put in different kind of music. But right now, not having any music is kind of like too much like a library, which is fine if you like working in silence. But I grew up, I don't even know how I was able to study that way with music playing while I studied. Now it's just I've gotten conditioned to it. It's like those of us who, even in the wintertime, we like the fan going because of that white noise. That's me. I kind of think did that with the music. So again, I'm just going in and keep adding color here and there. Build, build, build. And again, I'm just using a small brush because it's what's feeling comfortable these days. And that might change up here and there depending on what I'm trying to achieve. But I know with some of the projects that I have coming up that I want to do, I don't see myself going totally the brush. Personal preference too. So at the end of the day, like I always tell my students, enjoy what you're doing. Don't make it feel like it's a job. So again, I'm just building my color up. And I'm seeing some things I might need to correct. And I'm still getting a lot of transparency in the background. I'm sure when I add white to it, it takes away some of that transparency. But I don't want to have white in some, in a lot of the places. I want it to be less buildup of white. So I'm just looking at my reference photo. And I'm seeing some changes I might need to make. Again, this photo is a Cindy Fry photo from Photos for Artists, I believe. I'll make sure that I have it pop up on the screen for you, which is found on Facebook. Didn't mean to touch there. So I'm measuring my placement, and I feel that I've gone too far out. I need to taper in a little bit. So I dabbed a little bit of black there. I wasn't supposed to, but cleaned it right up. So that's what's also nice about paintings. When you let it dry thoroughly, you're able to, if any paint touches on this area that has already cured, it's easy to clean up when the wet paint hits it, because the underneath is completely dry. So this is almost like doing a wash on top of my color. All I'm doing is taking the yellow and placing it on top. Just a little bit of water. Not to make it too runny, but I'm going to go ahead and do this to knock out more of my black area. And then I'll go back in and add more color. So it's one thing about acrylic is that you can keep building and building and building until you get the way you like it, and it dries quickly so you can build. But I say it dries quickly. It dries fast enough for you to come back and add more color to it. It does take a little bit longer for it to cure to your canvas, where you can't go back and wipe it up or like use a water brush on it to clean up some areas. You need to do that right in the beginning, or you can knock it out by just painting black over it or whatever's behind it. Like with oils, I tried oils. I don't like oils, but I think I was never taught correctly how to use oils like pastels. I want to learn how to use those. I'm seeing that there's a few steps that I missed, that while I'm watching others how they're doing it, or when I'm talking to other artists, some of it's now starting to make sense. It's like learning how to crochet. In the beginning, those patterns, they are insane. It's like, they're hard to read when you don't know what you're doing. But once you get comfortable with it, once you are shown it, then it all comes together and makes sense. That's how I'm seeing a lot of the products that are out there. If you talk to somebody or watch how they do it, some of it's going to start making sense. You're going to go, oh, gotcha, that makes sense. Oh, or so that's how that works. So we're always learning, especially when it comes to art. There's so many different ways that people are doing things. The only thing I will suggest, or make sure you're aware of when you're doing it, is make sure that everything you use is archivable. You want your artwork to outlast you. You don't want it breaking down over the years and they can barely make out anything that you've done on it. So just make sure it's archivable. Try not to have it sitting in direct sunlight, or to help things, to make sure, if you're not sure if it's archivable, when you go to put glass on it, put safety glass on it that's meant to keep the light out of it so it doesn't change your colors. So there's a lot of ways. If you're not sure if you use the right material or the right canvas or whatever, you can always make sure that when you frame it, you're using the glass that keeps the UV rays out. So there are other options. So I'm using barely any black, because black does have a tendency to go far. And this is, I hardly put anything on my brush, and look how much is coming off. A little goes a long way. And I have found, unless you're making a huge painting, and it depends upon how you're using your paints, I try not to put too much paint on my palette. One, I hate waste, but two, for these smaller paintings, and the way I'm painting it, I'm not using a lot of paint. So yes, I go back and forth a lot to get my paint that I'm using here, but it also allows me to have full control over what I'm doing, and I'm not letting the painting get away from me. Again, build up your style the way you want to paint. It may take years until you find it, or months, because you paint every day. It just depends on how much you're painting, how much you're devoting your time to your artwork. I'm up to doing 2 art pieces a week. My goal is to incorporate 1 more, and that will be through drawing. I'd like to get that back up and going again. When a couple years ago when I was teaching, and maybe a little bit longer than that, but anyways, my drawing skill had become really strong, and that was because I was teaching drawing, and I had to draw with my students. I didn't have to, but I had to show them what to do next or how to correct their piece. So I was always within, I don't know, 2 hours every Saturday, maybe a little bit longer. On Saturday I'd be drawing, and then during the week I had to draw whatever their next subject was to make sure that I understood how I was going to teach it. So that's another thing too. If you want to teach art, sit down and pretend you're teaching. Explain what you're doing. Does it make sense to you? Will it make sense to the person that you're teaching it to? So all I'm doing here is I'm working on my shadows. I'm building up and building up and building up my my paint and my colors. And I just keep working it. And you know that it's where you want it when you can't add any more paint, or you're like, okay, I can't go any further on this. Then you're pretty much getting close to the end of your painting, until you walk away from it, and then 5 years later you go, you know what, I can do this, this, and this to it. And it's up to you if you want to go back in and change it. I try not to do that. I've done it on several pieces, only because I was really not satisfied with them at all. But I try not to, because I use my older paintings or drawings as a reference of where I was at that time. Now, there was a time where I actually was I felt at that level that all artists want to be, where it's all coming together. Oh my gosh, it's clicking, and I stopped because of a guy that I started dating who got jealous of how much time I put into my art. So granted, that was my mistake. When anybody takes you away from what you enjoy, then there's something wrong there, because I didn't take him away from anything he enjoyed or loved, but yet I allowed him to take away from me what I enjoy and love doing. Sometimes I think that's why I struggle in finishing some of my pieces. I don't know if it's a flashback, but I feel like I'm taking my time away from something or someone, and though there's not someone, I can tell you that, it's just me right now. So my time is what I choose to do with it. But you just don't know who comes into your life that's going to change everything in a positive or a negative way. So the bird is not all bright yellow. There are some a little bit of orange in here and there. So when you're painting, make sure you look at what you're painting and look at the sections. Again, everything, even in the feathers, there is a shape. one thing, always keep looking for the shape. And I want my bird to look pretty real. I'm not going for photorealism, but I'm also not looking for abstract either. I have tried every now and then to do some abstract pieces, and sometimes, I don't know about the rest of you guys, that is hard for me. It shouldn't be, but because I look at things and turn them in, you know, into realism, to do something abstract, it's a struggle because I want to like clean the line up, add a little bit more realism to it. So yeah, I've been starting on doing some painting classes that are like paint parties and everything. The way, you know, paint and sip was, now it's becoming just paint parties. Anyways, there's some of those where I'm sitting down and I'm trying to do the cutesy, but cutesy and me, we're struggling. Granted, I eventually get it out there and going, all right, that looks good. I can teach that now. And it does go by a lot quicker than these kind of projects. But still, it's a struggle. And I'm trying to make sure that I balance it out with realism and cutesy. Because sometimes when you're doing cutesy and you do too much of it, it's not that this part suffers, but you do kind of, I guess, lose patience for it because you're used to going quick, done, next, done. Where these take a little bit longer. But I am starting to enjoy these classes or these moments painting like this with you guys, that by the time Monday comes around, I can't wait to get back into the studio and paint. I could paint on the weekend, but I'm trying to take that weekend off and have a break so that I can do other things that I enjoy doing. So again, all I'm doing is I keep looking at my reference photo and keep adding and going back and forth. Now some will stay in one area. I used to stay always in one area until I was completely finished with it. But lately I've been moving around a little bit more, maybe to let some areas cure a little bit so that I can come back to it. So I'm going to go back into the beak a little bit. I feel it needs to be brighter. Bring out some of the colors. I mean, I like what I'm seeing here, but I think it just needs a little pop that I'm seeing that I don't have here. It's not much, but it's enough to make me notice it. And again, too, a lot of this, no one's going to notice but me. Oops, too much water. All right, so it's water on my brush. So when that happens, I wiped my brush off really good and coming back in and picking up the water. There we go. So I laid some blue down, and then I'm putting some white in that I'm going to come back in and blend in a little bit. I think that will give me my pop that I want. So I'm wiping my brush off to where I just have a damp water brush, so I can come back and do some blending. Remember to keep looking at your photo reference. Again, some of this towards the end starts to get personal preference of what you like, what you don't like. And then I'm just going to just put a little bit of white in here. And again, this is really dry underneath, so I'm just kind of putting a wash in. So I want it to be somewhat transparent to show some of that color coming through. So I just put some white down, and a lot of it I'm picking back up and just wiping it off. But yet it's enough to where it breaks it up a little bit more for me. Again, personal preference. Love to hear in the comments if y'all are working on anything special, or if you're doing a toucan. I don't want to make it too muddy, so you have to be really careful on that. You can get too muddy by over blending. Shadows and make sure you get them in. If you don't, that begins to look flat, like it's not part of the bird. Like everything is jumping up, and you get to a certain area, that doesn't look right. It doesn't match the rest of the painting. So watch your shadows; they're very important. When you're painting and you start getting a lot better at it each time, and you start teaching others, but one thing you want to make sure that everybody understands, especially after you get to a point in the teaching with your art itself, and they want to copy what you're doing, they are going to get frustrated because they want their art piece to look just like yours. I'm always telling my students, I can't even make my art piece look like mine. Because if I paint this again, I'm going to paint it completely different. So you need to make sure they understand that the old masters, all of them, the only way you can paint this exactly like you did the first one is if you're a machine or a robot, or you're doing it on the computer and you're not doing it free-handed. old school by painting like this. So make sure when you tell your students not to get discouraged, that they're going to do an awesome job, but their piece is not going to look like your piece. I still have students where I'm constantly reminding them, and it's more the adults sometimes than it is the kids. When I'm teaching my paint classes, that they will make comments, I want it to look just like yours. It's not going to happen. I wish I can teach you exactly how I did that. All I can do is teach you how for you to paint it, that it's going to look correct, or for you to have a finished piece. It would take hours and years for me to sit down and teach you how I paint this or how I did that. It just doesn't work like that. All right. So, part of my arm, I'm turning my reference photo so I can start working on this portion. Again, I like using blue in with my black to make my black richer. And I try to take a few minutes out on the eyes because they are the soul of everything. So take a few minutes out and really look at the eye and what it is you're seeing there. And this is where it's good to get up close. I try and before I used to print all my artwork out on colored paper. Not colored paper. I print them out in color. And that was how I painted for a long time, is I would have my reference photos. And then of course slowly computers started coming out, and you're able to leave them on your tablet and paint from there. I struggled with that because I was so used of the paper. I don't know why, but it was just a struggle. And I still like working from a printed version, but I'm slowly getting comfortable with the tablet, mainly because I can zoom in, and that makes such a difference when I need to get up close, or if the picture's too dark and I need to lighten it, I can actually go in and lighten an area, which you can't do on a printed version. Again, I'm just building. You can, if it makes it easier for you, to mix your black in with your blue. This way you already have it pre-mixed. And I'm just trying to clean up my edges. And again, just keep working this. I have a few exciting paintings that are in the works that I have found that I want to do. So it's getting me excited about it, but I also have to remind myself that they may take me 2 or 3 times to, make 2 or 3 hours, maybe longer. And since I'm trying just to do an hour a day, not an hour a day, an hour every Wednesday. Wow, okay. No, I have not been drinking. Just a lot of caffeine. But the weather's been nice today, so maybe that has a part to do with it. And I wanted to get out and walk today, but I have been swamped. So I'm trying to get really caught up so I can start enjoying other things that is outside of the studio. So again, I'm still building. This one may run a little bit longer tonight because I do want to get this done. Like I said, I'm kind of getting excited about the next painting that I want to do. So even though the feathers in the background are black, there's still a lot of blues and whites going on in it. So I went ahead and mixed my black with a little bit of blue. And I'm going to start working back here. Now what should happen is with the blue in it, it should make this darker than my background, even though that's black. There should be a little bit of a difference. And it'll pop more too once I put some of the white in it. And again, you still want to treat this section. There's a little bit too much white, but I'm going to blend it in. I just want to try and get the feathers. Almost looks like he's got a what is it? Mohawk. So. So yeah, there's too much white in here, but I'm going to keep building it up, so I'm going to leave that just to start getting the rest of them in place. So you can easily do this, brighten it up so that you can see where everything goes, because you can always come back in later and add, of course, the black. Again, look at the shape. What is it doing? Also, make sure you're going in the same direction the feathers are going. If you don't follow their feather pattern, it's not going to look right. It's not going to look normal. Unless you're going for an abstract look. But you still want to stay true to the bird. Also too, when you're working in small sections, it makes you stop and look at what you're drawing. Again, I'm not a toucan. I don't know how or what the feathers are doing or where they're going, so I have to look at my reference photo. That'd be kind of cool. I say I'm not a toucan, but maybe next time when I'm painting a toucan, I'll dress up like a toucan. Okay. Now I'm just getting silly. So I still have to go back into the bird for the into the yellow, because I need some of the feathers to brush up in here, but I'm not going to worry about that right now because they kind of lay on top of the area that I'm working. So again, when you're looking at what's going on. There might be some areas where you have to wait until you put the bottom section down, or the one behind it. So I've got a lot of activity come up here with where the yellow's at. So that means this part of the yellow is on top of my black. So I need to get the black laid down, and then I can come back and add the yellow to it. So let me keep moving this around a little bit so you guys can see. So I did take the bird off of my canvas, so he's not completely on there. So right now I'm just kind of looking again at my reference and sketching out the shape of the yellow part of his feathers. And again, I will go back over top with some yellow. Again, I'm just going to add a little bit of white in so I can also use the white that I'm laying down as part of highlights. So now down in this part here of his feathers, there is a different texture going on. So like I said, pay attention to your reference, watch what's going on, look back and forth a lot, just keep working. I think this here is part of his wing, so there's a little bit more going on here. So this one here this section has lots of shapes. So instead of looking at the whole thing, break it down, look at your shape and paint that. And then you'll come back in and fine tune it. So this part kind of breaks up the bird a little bit more. So it gives some interest in the darker area, where this doesn't have very much going on. This is has some highlights, but down here it gives you a little bit more interest of the bird. I might put some background in on this. I'll decide once I get further along and take a look at where I'm at. So I notice there's a lot of color. There's more color going down in here. There's some red in his underbelly. But I'm going to go ahead and get some of the black going in first. Alright, so I'm going to turn this upside down so I can work more on this. Is too far away. Alright, so I'm going to let that bottom portion that I just did here, I'm going to let it cure for a little bit. I'm going to go back to the top. And let's work on the top portion. Now I turned my canvas around, but I'll have it where I still would be facing upright so you guys could see it. But I needed to have this on a different pose for me to do the effect that I want to use. And I have told you guys in the past that sometimes, not sometimes, I usually 95% of the time will flip my canvases around so that I can work with them. So right now I'm just building up my color. I'm making sure there's blue in it, because when I look closely at this Adam, he does have blue in it, in his feathers. And again, I just keep following the shape of his feathers. I'll probably come back and do a wash on some of those areas where it is so I can get rid of that white. I'll have a little bit of black on it to give it a gray tint to it. And again, I'm just going in and working, following the shapes. So this video might definitely go over an hour. Like I said, I'd like to get this one done tonight and have it as a 3-parter so that I'm ready to start a new one next Wednesday. I would love, have you set a goal for yourself when you're painting monthly? I know there's some that can whip out a painting daily. I can't do that because I do work for a living. I don't have that much time to focus on a painting, but I say that at the same time, I've seen somewhere kick these out in an hour, 2 hours. Maybe I can figure that out in the end, how I could do that. But right now, it does take me a little bit longer. I am not going to complain. I give kudos to those who can paint like that. That's just not me, and it's not everybody, so don't think that you have to do it like that. Now, saying that, I had an art teacher in college who, in front of us, did this huge bouquet of flowers. I mean, it was not a bouquet, but in a vase of flowers. Oh my gosh, it was unreal. But then he told us the secret of how he was able to do this large, I mean, huge painting. And I think, I'm not going to swear, but it might have been in oils, but don't hold me to that. His secret was the reason he can get those done in that amount of time. That's all he did. That's all he painted, was huge bouquets, flower arrangements in vases. And because that's all he did, he quickly was able to master paint those in no time, to the point where he can do 2 or 3 of them a day. But he also said that if he had to stop and do something else that was not flower related, that was not in the norm that he does all the time, it would take him longer, because he had to stop and look at what he was doing, what he was painting. The other, he just did it so much and so often that he knew every flower that he painted, he already knew and have painted it 100,000 times. So he didn't have to second guess himself, he already knew. So let's say you just want to paint toucans the rest of your life. Eventually, you can paint this within an hour, 30 minutes. And you can paint many of them because that's all you paint is toucans. So it is possible to whip these out left and right. So it's up to you what you would like to do and how quickly you would like to paint them. Eventually, I know I'll get a little bit faster since I'm getting back into it. But I'm not here to set a world's record. I'm not looking to be the fastest painter in the world. I want to enjoy what I'm painting. Now, granted, I will never do photorealism. That right there is where I draw the line. I give kudos for everybody who does that. It's amazing. They look like photographs. But that's not what I want to do. So find what it is you want to do. Is there a particular series that you want to paint? Do you like painting flowers or fruit? Do you want to just paint cats or dogs, or, you know, find what it is you enjoy painting. You'll find that you'll paint more if you're painting something you enjoy doing. Not what you have to do, but what you enjoy. And don't go by what everybody says, oh, this is the big thing out there, like gnomes. All of a sudden gnomes are like the popularity of, let's paint how many places and positions and that we could put our gnome. That doesn't mean that's what you should be doing, unless it's something you want to do. That's going to change everything. My thing, which took a long time for me to realize, I love painting animals. Well, my first love was fantasy. I loved painting dragons. And started getting good at it, but then of course got away from it like everything else. So I paint them every now and then, but I'm not into them like I used to be. But what I do enjoy is painting animals and to support the endangered species philosophy out there. And granted, I hope in time I will have more involvement with that, because we are losing so many of our animals and plants and everything. By the time your children's children have children, we may not have anything left, not even in the zoos, because there's a lot that are dying in there too. Some of them are just dying from old age. But no one's, I mean, I'm not saying nobody cares, but by the time people do stand up and take a stand, it may be too late. We may have lost all of them, and that's it. They'll be gone forever. So on my Facebook and on here, you might find more wildlife than anything, but I think some of the other projects I have out there that I need to wrap up or I found interesting are not all animals. So I do a wrap up on Thursday where I'm taking a lot of my artwork that I have not walked back to. I walked away from them for whatever reason and never finished them. So wrap up Thursday, I will be putting out paintings that I've been sitting on for a very, very, very long time. I keep cleaning my brush off because sometimes it just gets too much paint on it and it just makes everything very globby. I can't move the paint around. I try rolling it off, but there's still sometimes too much paint, so sometimes you do have to rinse your brush a little bit. So again, I'm just following everything that I'm seeing. Mostly right now I'm just working in the dark areas, so the lighter areas will pop a little bit. And then I'll work back in. So I'm trying to define my feathers. Like I said, I'm not going to swear this is his wing. This could be his wing. But I'm just keep working it back and forth. Don't rush. If you find that while you're watching my video and you're painting your own and have to pause it. Work on that area and move forward. I'm just wanting you to hang out with me while I do a new painting. I wish I was saying I was doing a new painting every Wednesday, but I think some of my projects that I'm doing, and since I'm only doing for an hour, they're not going to be brand new projects every Wednesday, but it will be a new painting wrapping it up on a Wednesday. Again, I've been wanting to come out and hang and paint, and I'm not surrounded by a lot of artists where I'm at, so I can't just say, hey, come paint with me, hang with me, because the artists I do know are at beginning levels. So instead of just wanting to hang and paint, they want me to teach. And even though I tell them that this is not teaching, this is just come hang and paint, they still want me to stop what I'm doing so I can help them out. So then I'm missing out. I'm not doing what I want to do with what the purpose is for just hanging out and painting. So I thought, well, why not do it on YouTube? Just, you know, go out there, pick up a painting and start painting, because I'm not stopping and helping you guys out. Though if you have any questions or anything that you'd like for me to answer, please indicate below, and I promise to get back with each and every one of you, or show me your art that you're working on. But not like that one gentleman who put out what he did. That's just was a little uncalled for. Come on, you know, I understand it's all art, but that was just rude. I will be stopping and really looking at this, decide if I want to put a background on it, and it would be just a wash, because there's a lot of stuff going on. But I might just leave the bird. I might not want to do anything else. The only thing I might do is, I do have to clean my chalk up, but what I just did had some white in it, so now I've got to I'll probably have to come back and clean that, because I didn't have a clean water brush when I did that. And I'm probably going to go back in and add some more yellow in there. It needs a little bit more work. So this one, I want to say I want to complete it today, but it looks like I might have to do a part 4, but it won't be as long. And I thought about editing, so you're not sitting here painting with me through the whole thing. But what if you wanted to see the whole thing? But if you don't, you can always fast forward and say, all right, let's get to another section. So part of his wings they've got blue going on, but they also have a lot of black. And again, I don't want to rush these. This is not my objective, is to sit here and see how fast I can get this done. And I wish I could say that I could have done more of this with when this COVID was going on, but I was one of the lucky ones that had a job during that time. So while everybody was staying home, I was actually at work. I did database work for the hospital until that ran out. So I didn't have as much downtime as others had. I'm not saying it was a bad thing. I think in some ways I still would have been finding a way to work. But I think we are going to take this to part 4. And the reason I'm struggling with my feathers. So instead of rushing it and trying to finish it up, I am going to stop at this point and wrap this up next week. I really was hoping to have it done, but again, this is just to show you that sometimes it takes a little bit longer to finish something and you were hoping to have it finished within an hour or so. But again, I want to enjoy this painting. I don't want to feel rushed or anything, because at the end of the day, if I'm rushing through this trying to get it done just so I can start something else, I'm not going to like it. And the person who I have to make sure is happy with this painting is me. So like I said, a lot of you probably can paint this in no time, but I want to make sure this turns out nice, because at the end it may be a gift to somebody. So I think we're going to stop here. Yeah, a little bit more yellow over here, and then we slowly will call this not done, but we're going to call it done for today. And pick this back up next Wednesday and go from there. So again, I want to thank Cindy Fry for her photograph. You can find her out on Facebook in Photos for Artists. This is where you can find the Toucan. And again, I want to thank you for joining me. If you like the way things are going, please give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any upcoming paintings or drawings or anything that might find that you like. So here's where we're at so far. That means, and then decide if I want to put a background in or not. But this is where we are at, so I hope you enjoyed it so far and look forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a great day, guys. Take care. Bye for now.